everyone. Welcome to the Tiffany Marie Brannon Show. I'm Tiffany Marie Brannon, and today we have a dear friend, probably my funniest friend in all of conservative land, and it's Terry Schilling. He is a husband, a father of 7 gorgeous children. He is the president of the American Principles Project, and he just created an incredible film that I got to see at the premiere at Mar-a-Lago this week that is called Fathers Wanted. And it really delves into this major issue dealing with fatherhood that we have just not been discussing as a society. So, Terry, welcome.
Thanks so much for having me, Tiff. I'm so excited to be here, and thank you. I need to save this clip. No one's ever said that many nice things about me all at once, so I really appreciate
No.
that.
Are you kidding? You're the best. Also, we're former Lincoln Fellows at Claremont Institute, so we got to stick together. Not that many of us.
That's right. No, the Lincoln Fellowship at Claremont is the best fellowship. Claremont's like my favorite organization. It's like my favorite conservative organization, like conservative gang in DC.
Yeah.
They just
Oh,
did
we're a
it.
gang. We're a
It's a
gang.
totally a
We're
gang. It's a
scary.
mafia, exactly,
The Atlantic
and we do
hates
the right.
us. Politico hates us.
That's right. They all hate us.
They
All the
hate us
right
so
people
much.
hate us.
Yeah, that's always like, "Hey, did this sneaky reporter try and contacting you today?" It's like, "Yeah, you, yeah." It's like, we stick together. We have tight ranks. But,
That's exactly right.
but no, thank you, because it really is like, I think I wanna get into kind of the subject itself and all that, but really, I would love for you to share a little bit of your background and your story. And, you're obviously a father of 7. You came from a big family, and your dad and your mom, and so maybe tell a little bit to our audience your background and your dad.
Yeah, well, again, thanks so much. Look, the documentary is all about fatherhood. It's the thing in my life that I value most. I love my kids. I love my wife. I love my job and my vocation that I have there. And I think it's all part of my own background. I'm the eldest of 10 kids. My dad, I was born in '86 in Western Illinois,
Yeah,
and
we're turning 40 this year, dude. Like, what?
it's so bad. I hate it so
I
much.
hate it. I have anxiety attacks, like, all the time.
I still refer to my peers as kids.
So
If
do
there's a
I.
guy or something, I'm like, "Oh, this kid over here said this." My dad, he's an insurance guy in Illinois, in the Quad City area, and he gets into the pizza business. We started it together as a family in 1996, about 30 years ago, and it's
Wow.
still up and running. But the pizza restaurant was really the heart of our whole family. The big family thing was big, but the pizza restaurant was where we all worked together. We're always sharing jobs together and sharing food together and recipes and all of that. And, so it was like being from a big family, Catholic, Midwest, and having a pizza shop. That was kind of like my life growing up. And I think that having 7 kids with our eighth on the way is like
Congratulations, by the way.
thank you. It's just kind of normal. Like when you're the eldest of 10 kids, those you're kind of like a mini dad in a lot of ways, and you learn to mitigate and mediate arguments and stop people from fighting. You're kind of like you look at these kids in your family as your own, and you see them for who they are, and so it kind of prepared me. But that's just my background. My mom was a stay-at-home mom. She still had skills. She's probably one of the smartest people I've ever known. She's very well read. She's read Victor Hugo's Les Miserables 2 times, which is an extremely long book.
I was already
Uh,
obsessed with your mother, okay? I'm already like, she's my new favorite person. And I was actually at lunch with Father Ben Keeley, who is
yes.
he's one of my dearest friends. He has all sorts of hilarious nicknames for me, which he can tell you later. And when he found out when I posted the video of us on my Instagram, I got this text saying, "I love Terry, but tell his mom I said hi." And I'm like,
Well, Father Ben, that's funny you bring him up because he came into my mom and I's life, my life, right at like a perfect time. My dad passed away in 2021, which we talk about in the documentary. He had advanced stage 4 cancer, and he died in 21. But I brought my mom to the Napa Institute conference out in California after he had passed, and that's where we met Father Ben. And he was just such a breath of fresh air and assurance and hope in such a difficult time for us. And I absolutely love him. I'm so glad that you're also friends with him. He's a wonderful man.
He is. He's a especially in this day and age in our community, it's really rare to have someone who loves the Lord, who is still politically involved in to such an extent that he is as a priest. I mean, I don't see a lot of other priests walking around in their frock at conservative, at NatCon, but and he's so kind and fun, and we maybe had some pie and, some things. But, your family had the pizza restaurant, and then what about like when did your dad, because he was a congressman, and what was that story? What was the track from pizza restaurant owner with 10 kids to United States congressman?
Yeah, so the pizza restaurants, it's kind of like the Chick-fil-A of pizza back home. It's called St. Giuseppe's Heavenly Pizza. It's got overt Christian tones. The Holy Family, which is obviously Jesus, Mary, and Joseph, they're all over our restaurant. Saint Giuseppe is named after Saint Joseph. Giuseppe's Joseph in Italian. And so he was always like getting in, he was always debating people at the restaurant. He had never run for office before running for Congress. He would get the union guys in at lunch, and we're Republicans. We've always been Republicans.
What?
But he get
No, really?
no,
Shocker.
imagine that.
What?
We love babies. If we didn't love babies so much, we might be
Well,
Democrats, but we don't like
apparently
killing them.
apparently we are that's how you can tell a MAGA woman now if she has a child or is pregnant. Watch out. Those
Yes.
those reproducers were everywhere.
Those birthing persons,
Yeah.
please. But so he was always, he would debate the union guys who were pro John Kerry and pro Al Gore and pro Barack Obama. But then at night, he would also sharpen his debating skills because all of the non-Catholic Christian youth groups would come there because it was a Christian restaurant. And so he got to learn politics and public policy by debating the union guys, and then he got to learn about the Bible by debating Christians that would come in with their youth group. So he was very well educated just through conversations and his own research. But yeah, that's so. Then after Obama got elected, our pizza restaurant had just started to make enough money to where we could finally go on vacation. We were getting a little bit more comfortable than we had been in the early years. And then Barack Obama gets elected. He's super anti-life and pro-abortion. He's talking about spreading the wealth around. And my dad called me. I'm about to graduate college, and he's like, "Hey, I'm running for Congress in the 17th district in Illinois, and I want you to run my campaign." At the time, Tiff, I had more campaign experience than he had. I had worked on a presidential campaign, a Senate campaign, a House campaign, and my dad wanted me to run his campaign. And so I graduated, went to run his campaign. We had no money, and we started paying these kids, these college kids, $50 a pop with these flip cams. This is before smartphones all had really good cameras on them. And these kids would record Congressman Phil Hare at every town hall and public event. And we finally got Phil Hare on camera saying he didn't care about the Constitution when it came to healthcare policy. And to keep in mind,
Nice.
this was a Democrat district from since 1982. It had come really close, like within 3 or 4 points before that, but it had been Democrat for almost 28 years by the time my dad ran. And so we ended up winning by 10 points that November. It was the 2010 Tea Party wave.
Wow.
And he got to serve a whole term in Congress as the pizza guy with 10 kids. It was an exhilarating and fun experience. And he, he had a great time. The family, there were a lot of ups and downs, but overall it was a really fun experience.
It's incredible. I mean, I love that your dad just like, "Hey, by the way, BT dubs, running for Congress, just in case you're wondering, and you're running the campaign." That's great.
Well,
But
Tiff, he was so innocent. Like I'm so cynical after being in this town for so long. Like his slogan for the campaign was "working for the next generation,"
that's
right? And it was
adorable.
all
That's
like,
adorable.
a politician works for the next election, a statesman works for the next generation. That was his whole thing. And he was like, I'm who the founding fathers envisioned going into Congress. And
Yeah.
he was exactly right, and I love that first campaign. I've never worked on a more fun campaign. He was just so innocent and so American, and he got in there and they chewed those freshman members of Congress up and spit them out. But I think Donald Trump ended up giving the final word on the Tea Party, though.
Yeah, just a little bit. The whole thing. I mean, you think about where we've been and where we've come and where we are, and it's mind-blowing. I mean, I'm from Arizona, and it's in such a swing state that you see, from the McCain days through the Tea Party days to now when I got back into politics about a year and a half ago, 2 years ago, right before the 2024 election, I didn't know anybody in town because it was like the Tea Party people were all gone, and I'm like, "Who are all these people? What's happening?" It's crazy. No, but
Yep.
I think just that how you describe your dad and how you describe his journey and who he was, you have such a deep admiration for, what he was able to accomplish in life, what he overcame, the fact that he was such a persistent and present father, and the fact that he has all these exemplary qualities that really go back to biblical manhood, right? And biblical fatherhood. And that's so clearly been passed down to you and, the siblings that I've met. And you guys are such incredible fathers and you so much put your children at the forefront of everything that you do that modeling has been so evident in your life that I think it makes a lot of sense that it would be something that you are so passionate about when you see it absent in our society and in the lives of others, especially children. So is that because I know I'm pretty sure your dad was the inspiration. The film was dedicated to him. He is featured in a large a part of it, his story, his journey. And so what was the instigating moment where after losing your father to I want to make this film?
Well, so it all kind of stemmed. So I'm the eldest, right? And the eldest child in a family is unique in that they are the the test dummy
I'm the
for the
eldest of
parents.
eldest of eldest, so I'm basically
Yes.
crazy, okay? So there we
No,
go.
I have a very similar background. My mom's the eldest in her family. Her mom's the eldest in her family, and your parents are really just young adults, and they're raising you, and they're making mistakes, and they're overcorrecting, they're undercorrecting. Like they're kind of figuring out how to be adults when they're raising their eldest child. And I go back to like my dad's early years, and he was so cool. They called him in high school because he threw the best parties. They called him CBS, Cool Bobby Schilling. And
Stop.
no, I'm dead serious. And so
This is why you're fun. This is why you're my fun friend.
I definitely get my sense of humor from him. He was very dry. He had a very dark, twisted sense of humor a lot of times. But he partied a lot in high school. When his parents got divorced in high school, he started really getting into drugs, and he ended up developing an addiction to crack cocaine in the early '80s when they didn't really. This is the time. It's easy to like condemn using crack now because we know how bad it is, but at the time, they sold it to kids as like, "Hey, you smoke weed? Yeah. You want something better." Like it was better than weed. Like it wasn't they didn't realize how addicting it was and how it could just destroy your life.
Yeah.
And so he got caught up into that. And so I think that like the thing for me, I was conscious. Like little kids, they don't always remember things from their childhood, but like my dad's recovery from addiction was critical and crucial to my development as a kid. And so I think that the reason I ultimately wanted to do this and to tell his story was because I'm so appreciative that he got clean. Only like 3% of addicts with crack get clean,
Yeah.
which is huge for us. And so I looked at what he did and how he turned things around. And I'm just so grateful for it, right? It's not just in like the things you do for your kids, it's the things that you give up for yourself. I think that makes fatherhood so impactful and important. And it's why I'm so grateful. And he really had like obviously with every addict, they still want to keep using and they still, they'll stumble and they'll relapse. But he turned things around in his life so strongly and so abruptly that, I told this story about his addiction, his recovery at his for the eulogy at his funeral, and no one in the audience knew. My own siblings didn't recall him having a drug addiction, right? They were
Stop.
actually they didn't believe it. They thought I was making things up for press attention, and it's really a testament to what God can do in your life if you just give your life over to him and follow his commands. And my dad's commands from God was to be a good husband and to be a good father. And that's what he went and did. And that's why I appreciate him so much. And I wanted to tell this story because I got his permission in his final days, and he basically said, I'm fine with you telling a story because if there's this drug stuff, and it's not just drugs anymore, it's sex, it's porn, it's gambling. He's like, there's all these dads out there and men that have these problems, and they didn't know of my own example. I turned this around. I didn't make a big deal about it. I just did it. And so I share that story to give hope to all the other men and dads out there that might have fallen short. You can go back. You can turn your life around. You can stop being an asshole, for lack of a
Yeah.
better word. And you can be a good dad. You can be a good husband. You can come back home. Dad needs to come back home. And I guess the central premise of the documentary is uh, fatherhood impacts you as an individual. It makes you a stronger and a better person if you do it right. But it also impacts all the rest of us. Society is much more prosperous. There's much less crime, much less violence, much less drug use, and
Yeah.
all these afflictions that we suffer from when there are strong fathers prevalent in society. And that's what we're suffering from. And those were the two things that we're making the argument is you're missing out as a young man. If you're not seeking marriage, if you're not seeking a family, you're missing out. And you're still a child. You're like Peter Pan, like you're living
Yes.
life for yourself and you really don't live until you start living for other people. And you really don't become an adult until you start serving other people. And yeah, it's a siren, it's not a siren, siren's call. Those are bad. A
Don't
reveille.
go to
It's
the
a
Siren's
reveille for our
Call.
don't call that is a call to death. It's a trap. No, it's a reveille. It's a battle cry for this generation. 40% of Gen Zers say they don't want to get married. 43% say they don't want to have kids. That's crazy.
It's not just crazy, it's so, I mean, to your point, right? In 1960, we know that the percentage of kids growing up without fathers was 10%. In 2026, we know it's over 40%. That's almost half of the population. You look at the fact that there's 18 million kids that over 18 million kids that don't have fathers in their house, growing up, that they're completely without that male role model and that figure. And like as you said, we know that if you don't have a dad growing up in your household, you have an 80% chance higher likelihood to never graduate college and to end up in prison or jail. We know that you have a higher likelihood, especially if there's other male adults around in your adolescence and childhood, to be abused, whether that's physically, mentally, emotionally, or sexually. You have just everything, a higher chance of falling into alcohol or drug abuse, a higher chance of obesity. We know the chances of you being raised and living in poverty are extremely high because what is like over 23.3% of mothers who are single mothers without fathers contributing to the household, they live in or below poverty levels. So it's all this cohesive thing where, as Charlie Kirk said, get married, have babies. And we're missing it. And it's not just from a holistic perspective, because like obviously we're Christians, we're both believers, we love the Lord, and we know the mission, go forth and multiply. And we know that God is our father and he set that incredible example for us to look toward. I mean, he uses that relationship, that identity as a father so intentionally and specifically that we are his children. And I mean, that's the foundational relationship of the Bible, the father son relationship, the father child relationship. And then, also the bridegroom and Christ. So they're the head of the household is the most important role. And we've somewhere lost that. And I know a lot of it has to do with feminism and a lot of it has to do with our walking away from the church. But I think that people are really unaware of the rippling effect that you so brilliantly describe in the film. You look at the National Fatherhood Initiative. They did that study where it's like the $154 billion man, where showing that because we're not prioritizing fatherhood and fathers in our society and culture, what we are left with are the total. It's like just in 2018, $154 billion was given by the federal government to 14 different major federal programs that were created and funded to support single moms in single mother households. Now, the other part we're not talking about is, and that's by the way up from 100 billion in like 2006. But the other thing we're not talking about is that there's also $500 billion set aside annually for child poverty, like to reduce children and childhood poverty. And when you trace back all these lines and you connect the dots, it's like, okay, well, there's $500 billion there. There's 157 billion, $54 billion there. This is money that affects us economically. This affects our lives as citizens of a nation and as a nation with a future. I mean, we have a population problem. We have a massive population decline. You discuss that in the film, which is brilliant. You discuss, all these things that are so intrinsically important on a mathematical sort of scientific level. And I think what you do so uniquely that we're missing from the conversation in a wider stance is really bringing back the concept of the holistic, what does it mean to live to be fully human, to live as a fully created in the imago Dei individual in the roles and responsibilities that we were given and tasked to by God. And it's about bringing fatherhood back into the spotlight. Not We can use the economics and the science to kind of back up our statistics and use the jail numbers and use the poverty numbers. Men are lacking purpose. We know that men, especially white men, if you're a white man and you're 40 S86ers, I mean, the statistic came out a month and a half ago. If you're a white man who is turning 40 this year, you have been discriminated against your entire life. That is so heartbreaking and sad. Do you think that treatment of men has contributed to this fatherlessness epidemic?
Yeah, so I want to take like kind of a step back because I think you're exactly right. But I think ultimately what we're suffering from is isolation, right?
Mm.
And if you look at both political parties, the Republicans are hyper focused on prioritizing capital formation, right? And then the Democrats are hyper focused on power formation. They want to grow the government and hand out money to us and control how we live our lives. They're all about power.
That's why they like us having fatherless homes, and they like everyone dependent on the
Yes,
kids. Yeah.
they design these systems for this entirely. And so that's, if you look at nature and just the natural system they have set up of women, we really like when we see a woman that we're attracted to, we feel compelled to protect her, provide for her, and to procreate with her. Like that's like literally like what the biology and the science tells us. And women, when they see a guy, they're attracted to him too. And they want to nurture, they want to educate, they want to build a home. They want to take that house and make it a home. So like you have this situation where men and women are both actually attracted to each other naturally. So what the hell's going on in our society? Well, there are these artificial divides that have been pushed upon men and women to divide us against each other for decades. And it's like no fault divorce. It's the free sex mentality. It's the drugs. It's the gambling. I think if I was to summarize it, I think that men are being attacked. Like we're attacked if you say on national television, well, I think my job as a man is to provide, protect, and procreate. You're going to get canceled. You're going to be called
Oh,
a
crazy.
misogynist.
It's
They'll
crazy.
lose their minds, right? And if you say, I really like that I make enough money for my wife to stay home and help take care of the kids, you're now anti-women in the workforce. The reality is that women are great workers. They're actually, I think I've employed women, I've employed men. I think women are better workers than men. But that's why they should be dedicated to raising the next generation for the first few years of their lives, right? Like women have this thing, it's called a biological clock. They can only have kids up until they're like mid to late 40s. And even then, it's like super tough. But what our society has told men and women is that college, career, then maybe if you absolutely have to get married. And then, if you really have a ton of extra money lying around, then have a kid. But don't do it until, well, guess what's happening? This next generation, they're just anxious, right? Because they aren't, when you get married for the first time in your life, you're saying, my life is not about me, right? And then when you have kids, your life really isn't about you.
Yeah.
So you don't have time to think about your own problems, right? Like I have a lot of problems. I have a lot of afflictions in my life a lot of fires that I'm constantly having to put out. And
Not like
I'm
you have
never
almost
think
8 kids or anything. What? No.
but that's what I'm saying. I'm thinking about other people's problems all the time. You look at the afflictions of this upcoming generation, the same one that's saying they don't want to get married and have kids, they're all anxious. They're all depressed. They're all on medication. They're all in counseling. We have never been more medicated. We have never been more in therapy, and we've never been less into our families. We've never had weaker families in America. And I think these things are all related because when you actually start focusing your life on other people and solving their problems, you have less time to sit in a room and doom scroll on TikTok and think about your own anxiety and problems, right? So I think like marriage and family is such an obvious way to get out of this. If we can start focusing on serving others instead of ourselves, I think America is going to be a lot better place to live. And it's so common sense. Like our ancestors, even our grandparents understood saying this logic. That's why we love them. It's because
Yeah.
they don't live so. If our grandparents lived like Andrew Tate, or and
Damn.
Dan
Korean.
Bilzerian, as we mentioned in the film, like, we
Oh,
wouldn't even be here, right?
uh-uh.
But we love our grandparents because they do things for us, because they serve us, because they sacrifice for us. So if you wanna be loved, if you wanna be, like, revered in
Yeah.
society, you're called to love other people, i.e. During the whole gay I don't wanna get into gay marriage, but, like, during the gay marriage debate, you
Don't
always saw
we're
those
gonna do a whole
signs.
series on that, you can come back for that later. I'm
No,
gonna
that
have Katie
sounds
Faust on, we're going to Obergefell, we're going the whole thing.
well, I do think that this is all kind of related because
It
at the
is.
heart of this entire affliction is it's that men and women are the same. Not that we're equal, it's that we're the same and we can all do the same things. We can't.
Yeah.
We can't. I would be a very terrible mom. I would be a very terrible mother making sure that our kids are getting the right food and nutrition and going to bed on the right time, right? Like, but
You'd be fun mom, though. You'd
I'd
be
be a fun
cool
mom.
mom.
They'd have ice cream all the time, and I just get them out of my face because that's what men and women are obviously different, right? And but going back to gay marriage, the signs were everywhere. Love is love. Love is love. Love is love everywhere. What is love? Tell me what love is. I'll tell you what my definition of love is. Love is the willingness to sacrifice for the betterment of others, right? I mentioned Victor Hugo because my mom's read Les Miserables 2 times, which I find crazy. He's quoted as saying, you can give without loving, but you cannot love without giving. And
Mm,
it's a much longer quote about how all the beautiful things in our world actually come from the small sacrifice made by others on behalf of other people. And I think it's such a powerful quote. It's so real. And when you have that definition of love, the willingness to sacrifice for the betterment of others, I don't see any love on the other side
yeah,
of the aisle on the left. I don't. I see a lack of love on the right. I don't think the right is perfect by any means, but like you're talking about a movement that says that your children, your own flesh and blood, should die so that you can go to Disney World every year and get and finish your college degree. You're talking about a movement that will literally buy and sell children uh, just because children are now commodities. It's an entirely they they literally have brought new slaves into our country. They're called
yeah,
illegal migrants, and they're actually our slaves now. They don't
yeah,
work for proper wages. They work under the table. They ship all their money overseas. Like this is what Rome went through. The Romans started hiring slaves to do all their work. They stopped having kids. They stopped getting married. They just hired slaves, and then they didn't have a country.
yeah,
That's what's happening in America. Is we've found new slaves. We don't call them slaves. We call them migrant workers. But they're really slaves. They don't work for fair wages. It's absolutely atrocious. So you tell me you love people, you have empathy. Hillary Clinton's out with a new op-ed today about empathy
I
and how there's no
saw.
empathy in the MAGA right. Like, I'm sorry. I think Vince Foster and Seth Rich would be tearing up reading about your
Oh,
conversion
yeah,
to empathy
I
right
mean,
now.
she needs to read, Allie Beth's Toxic Empathy book. It's like, I don't think you know what empathy means. And I love how all these, politicians have always compared these migrants to like, we need them to do the bad jobs, to pick
To
our
clean our
cotton. I mean
toilets.
fruit, not cotton fruit. What? And then they're like, yeah, that one was it the city council or congressman thing where she was going off about like I need someone to and like wipe my ass or something. It was like something really gross. I
Yeah.
was like, what is wrong with you? But you are, I mean, you everything you say and communicate is always so eloquent and it's so thought out, and I really love that about you, but I completely agree, and I always think of that C.S. Lewis quote, "To love is to be vulnerable," but to what you're saying, my what I've always said that, like, you so resonate with is that parenthood and the act of having children and becoming a parent, father, mother, it is the last and final step in becoming an adult through character formation. It's that missing piece of you're an adult, you got the job, you did the college, you did, I don't know, you traveled, whatever, you got married, you had some fun. And now suddenly there's this tiny human being that is completely reliant on you. And it's not a dog. You can't send it to a pet sitter. You can't give it away for a dog. I mean, you can give it away for a dog, but you can't, just drop it off. You can't leave it at home for hours by itself while you go do whatever or leave it with a friend for extended periods of time. And it will talk back to you, and it will say things that
Well,
you
they talk back.
they talk back. I mean, I have a sweet little, 5-year-old nephew and 7-year-old niece, and it's also just the talking back with some of the things they say, and I was like, "Oh," where it's like mean it like sweet, but sometimes I'm like, kids are just so honest, and like, I mean, this And, like, my nephew Wayne said something so sweet the other day, and I was like, "Well, that was I know you meant that so sweet, but that kind of hurt my heart a little bit. That's fine." But, a dog's not gonna do that. A cat's not gonna do that. Your pet bird or raccoon or whatever, horse is not gonna do that. It's a one relationship. You feed them, you take care of them, they love you. And I mean, don't get me started on the fact that we've devolved into dog moms, dog dads. Like, I want to vomit in my mouth. Animals are not children. You own an animal. It is not a human being. It is like does I can't. But, without people becoming parents, with the culture that is so obsessed with traveling and Instagram posts and this narcissism. I mean, like you said, so many of us are in therapy. So many of our generation we're the loneliest, the most isolated, most depressed, highest suicide rates worldwide of any generation ever documented. And what does that say? We're literally killing ourselves by warping and twisting and walking in the opposite direction of how we're created. And I think that, what is character? Character at the end of the day is virtue. And we've created an entire generation of virtueless men and women. And it's so balanced. Like, what do you see happening in the next, 5, 10, 15 years if things get better or if things don't get better?
Well, to be clear, if you look at okay, so the fertility rates. I hate talking about fertility rates. I just there's a lot of numbers flying around,
Eh.
but I'll go through it real quick. So ideally, if you want to just get your same population and not like go down, I think we're around 330 million people right now. You need 2.1 kids for every woman. It's a really stupid statistic. What
It
really
is weird. It
matters
is why can't it like, it is a weird when you think about it, you're like, "But why isn't it not just
it's
like
accounting for like,
this?"
all right, point 0.1 are gonna die over the time. It's
Like,
super stupid.
yeah, it's
But how demographers explain it to me, and we kind of go into this in the film, is what really matters is how many people are how many children people are having versus how many they want to have, right? And that number actually is very interesting because it's about 2.5 kids. So people say they want to have between 2 and 3 children on average, but they're coming in way late, and they're coming
Mhm.
in late because they put their career ahead of their family, they put their college over their family, and the reality is that you would do better in college, you would do better in your career if you were married. Why is that? Well, because when you're married in college, you have a wife that's like, "Hey, study. What are you doing? Why are you going out drinking with your friends? You should be studying so you can get a better grade so you can
Yeah.
graduate early." If
See,
you
we
have
call that
these
mom, like, "Oh, you don't be his mom," or, "Are you my mom?" Like, I had a one relationship I had, I couldn't say anything where he's like, "Okay, mom." It's like, No, I just want you to be responsible. Like, this is like, be a responsible adult. Like, I'm not being your mom. I'm like, we're a partner. How do you not behave responsibly?" You know what I mean? It's weird.
Yeah, well, if you weren't acting like a child, you wouldn't be calling me mom. Like, if you
Oh,
were a grown
preach,
up and acting like
preach.
an adult, I wouldn't be correcting you.
Yeah.
But then, like, I also think about my own life. Like, we started having kids. I actually, we had a high school pregnancy. My girlfriend and my oldest daughter, Grace, is like my smartest kid, my most talented kid. She's, I
Other
mean,
children, we're
total
sorry
product
if
of
you're
God.
hearing this eventually one
Well,
day.
I do have favorites. It just depends on what part of the year it is and who's been nice to me. Every kid I've had, it's more pressure to do better at my job and make more money.
Yeah.
Right. And so, like, these kids, no wonder they're like not graduating, getting jobs because they don't have a wife to provide for that's on their back saying, "Where are you going to get your next paycheck from?" You don't have kids that are depending on you to put food on the table and keep a house and shelter over their head. When you have these things and you're a father, you can't fail. You won't fail. There's a million excuses for everyone. Like, I I'm not actually the smartest person ever. I just try to do my best. I work my butt off. I try to be honest, right? As much as I can. And I have these kids that I know that if I don't make enough money, if I fall short on anything, that
Mhm.
my kids are going to suffer. My wife is going to suffer, right? And so it's a huge motivation. And if it was just me, I'm going to kick the can down the road. Oh, I can
Yeah.
get a job tomorrow. I can
I
get
can
a
live on
better
a
job.
futon. I can live on my friend's, like, mattress on the floor. Yeah,
Right,
it's not the same. You're not gonna have this because 'cause you're literally have other people's lives on the line.
right.
What if they have to go to the hospital? What if someone breaks their arm? What if, God forbid something bad happens? Or just providing them as good education, clothing, shoes. I mean, everything costs money these days, that we know. And it's like to have that driving force, it makes you a better man. Like, pretend you're not even a father. To have any kind of force outside of that, that is compelling you and motivating you, and there is no alternative, you are automatically going to be a better person. And, you said something, like, keyword as like, being honest. Like, you want to be honest. Did you know that? Because I mean, there was the article that came out, gosh, like 2 days ago, talking about men versus women and how men see opponents like across the table, whether it's negotiating, politics, whatever, they see them more favorably than women see people on the same side as them. Did you see that?
Yeah, yeah. Well, there's like a 4-panel comic about this, showing the difference between men and women, and like basically it starts with a group of guy friends, and they're all talking trash to each other. Oh, you're a POS. Oh, you're stupid. Oh, you're lame. You suck. And then one guy leaves, and he's like, all right, I gotta go, guys. And then when he leaves, the guys are all like, man, I love that guy. He's so cool. He's the best. Oh yeah, I love him too. Then it goes to the girls, and they're all, "Oh, you're so pretty. Oh, I love you." And then the one woman leaves, and when she leaves, they're all like, "Oh, she's such a bitch. Oh, I
Oh,
can't
yeah.
believe that
Yeah.
she's even in our group. Like, we should kick her out."
Like, I
Like,
hate her hair. Like, what does she do? Like, oh my God. Like, trust me. And let me tell you, it's so bad in conservative politics. These women are horrible. I was like, why are they all so mean? Like, that's, but like, that's the truth. Go ahead.
let me unpack that real quick. This goes back to biology. This goes back to nature, right? Like, women are territorial. Women are meant to be competitive and make sure that once they find that guy, that good partner, that no other woman can get to them. So they
I will cut
see,
you. I will cut you.
yes. So they see all the flaws in all their friends, and they actually see it in a worse way. Whereas men, like, we're willing to fight if we absolutely have to, right? But it's a lot easier if you can work out a deal, if you can work out an arrangement, right? So like, we are always trying to figure out, like, how do I not fight this guy? How do I rule out the risk of getting punched in the face and knocked out? Can I work out a business agreement with this guy? Like, that's just how guys are. We want to get along. We want to see things clearly, and we also recognize threats that are immovable, that need to be addressed. And that's why we make better soldiers and we make better
Yeah.
generals. Is we
Presidents, all of the
we only
above.
fight when we have to. So yeah, no. But going back real quick, what does the future look like if we don't get young people married, having kids again? Well, there's this interesting thing where there's basically a partisan divide, right? You can tell if someone's a Republican or Democrat essentially by if they have a ring finger on. Uh,
Crazy.
you know,
It's crazy.
it's nuts. The fertility rate for conservatives and for Republicans is actually very close to replacement levels. It's about 1.9, 2.0. The fertility rate for liberals and Democrats, it's like 1.0. So what's going to end up happening, and this is a long-term project, and it's why the schools are so important. So the Democrats aren't procreating, so they're dying off. That's why they need the schools to indoctrinate our kids. That's why they need the
Ah,
certifications and the credentialing establishments like our higher ed and college institutions, is because that's how they groom our kids. That's how they take our
yeah.
fertility and our families and make them into products of the leftist industrial
We
complex.
become the people makers.
Right. So we're having this thing where Republicans are actually outnumbering Democrats just by having more babies and families, but it's not high enough. It needs to get higher. I tell every conservative or Republican that asks me about this topic, I ask them, like, well, when's the last time you talked to your kids about getting married and having kids themselves? Have you ever told your kids to let God plan their family instead of them? Right? Like, get
We're
rid of the birth
obsessed with
control.
planning. That's like that word makes me gives me anger, goosebumps, like hair on my neck because you think about family planning with Margaret. It's okay, that's abortion. That's not family planning. You think about birth control. You think about, I mean, talk about. I have a whole theory that I talked about before on this, where birth control, because it makes women attracted to more feminine men, you're not biologically even registering the pheromones that God like intended for you to have the best reproductive outcome. So I have this whole theory where, first of all, where women are medicated, basically sterilized for years of their life, and then told they need IVF because it makes, doctors $40,000 a pop because it's a
Yep.
business. Way why what's over 60% of pregnancies are now scheduled C-sections because they'd rather get them in and make money than let a woman naturally give birth and, actually her body recovers so much better. It's just this constant cycle of one thing after the next, and it seems like it's unending.
It is unending, and it's because no one said stop.
Yeah.
right? Like we the Trump administration has started to cut back on Planned Parenthood, right? They've did a huge bunch of cuts to Planned Parenthood's funding this past year. Planned Parenthood's been getting over $500 million every single year for over a decade.
Bleh.
To put that in perspective, Planned Parenthood actually doesn't help you plan out your parenthood. They help you prevent parenthood, right? And these are all euphemisms. They just give kids condoms and birth control and give abortions. They don't actually like help a woman that's pregnant and needs, resources to raise her children. They don't help her. They
No,
help
no.
them prevent parenthood.
Well, not only that,
Um,
but that's why they're responsible for the printing and the proliferation of quote unquote sex ed material that teaches 10, I mean, what is that the pamphlet that came out last year? It's like a 10 and 11-year-olds how to masturbate, how to have sex, how to they have to indoctrinate and create a promiscuous society because that's how they get their product. If they're not getting product, which are human unborn babies in the womb, then they're not getting anyone to pay for abortion. They're not getting, I mean, we've uncovered, I mean, the last few years, how much like horrific fraud is happening with them selling black market baby body parts. I mean, how much a baby's brain is, or a kidney, an organ, whatever. I mean, they have to create a promiscuous society that's going to have unprotected sex, to have unwanted pregnancies, because that's how they're getting their product. There's no other way to do it.
No, no, that's exactly right. That's why the porn industry needs to be reined in. One of the fights that we've been involved in is age verification to help protect
Which is
minors from
huge.
porn. Yeah,
Yeah.
and we're up to 26 states that have that. We need nationwide protection, but we're making huge progress. And that issue, interestingly enough, the protecting kids from porn online, that's been probably the most bipartisan issue I've seen in quite a while. It's
Really?
passed even in Virginia by like only 3 members of the
Virginia,
state
not
house.
Virginia, the crazy place where they're doing all this lovely new governor stuff now?
Well, it passed under Youngkin. I don't think
Okay.
Abigail Spanberger would have signed into law, but it's getting a lot of support from Democrats in the states, which is interesting. But yeah, I think if we don't cut back on all the porn, if we don't start teaching our, if you just had Christians not using birth control, this whole country would be a lot different place, right?
Yeah,
If Christians just let God plan their families for them and plan
yeah.
their lives for them, really, America would be a much more conservative country. Democrats would be a much more conservative party because if you look at the polling, it's the never married and the single women that are 70% voting block for the Democratic Party. The Democratic Party is essentially made their entire party platform to cater to these single woke progressive women. That's 70%. And
That's why
Republicans
Mom
haven't
Donnie
really.
won.
It's exactly why Mamdani won,
Yeah. Like
right?
83% of
Um,
the vote was, these dumb, I mean, I'm that demographic, right? That's why I have the show, because I am a highly overeducated, somewhat affluent, single, childless, divorced white woman, right? Who has, like, lived all over the world, and I don't even have a dog. Like, I fit every crazy ass liberal white woman demographic, like, down to the T, and it's like, "LOL, I inceptioned you." Because
no, but
that's the
there
reality.
and there's a lot there's still 30% of unmarried women. 30% is an enormous block,
Yeah,
right? But the 70% is just horrific
yeah,
because they don't have any limits. Like there's no common sense, right? And
yeah.
you can I'm telling you, you can really tell a lot about people based on the family structure that they come from.
For sure.
And look, my dad's situation was unique. There are people that reject the system and they reject the circumstances that they were born into. They overcome it, and it's really beautiful, but it's almost always the exception. These By getting dads out of the home, you're eliminating half of what's required to properly raise children. There are a lot of these single moms that do the Lord's work raising these kids by themselves,
Yeah.
but their lives would be so much better. Their children would be so much better off if there was a loving father in the home, if there
Yeah.
was a loving father in the picture. But we're told by society, no, 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 no. You can replace that loving father with like an aunt or grandma.
No, well, and I'm so tired of the constant rhetoric online. I mean, I saw it today, it made me so mad, where it's just, especially, like, on my Instagram feed or whatever, where it's like, these women having babies by themselves, like, "Decided I didn't wanna deal with a man, so I'm having a baby myself. Best decision I ever made." And it's so selfish, and that's, I mean, that's why Katie Faust started her whole Greater Than organization about putting kids before yourself, like, in terms of, marriage and stuff, like, just not it's not just about you anymore. It's not just about your whims and pleasures and whatever, but you have this entire new generation of women who are doing surrogacy or IVF or whatever alone without a father, and it's because they want the baby so badly, but they don't think about, well, what's that child going to endure and what is it going to lack since there is no stable father figure in the home? And like, how do you talk to those people? Especially, I mean, I've seen this trend even among Christian women, where now Christian women are like, well, I couldn't find a nice guy. And to be fair, like, as a single woman that's been dating, let me tell you, Terry,
Yeah.
oh my gosh. And the sad part is it's a lot of the millennial Christian men that are the worst ones to go out with. It's
Mhm.
those are the guys where first date, you're having a drink, trying to get to know somebody, and you realize pretty quick, like, oh, you have a porn addiction. This is very clear in how
Yes.
you talk. And then what
So,
am I supposed to do?
well, how I like to think of it is it takes two not to tango, right? And I know I just went on a diatribe about single women, but it takes two not to tango. And that's why we started with men. And it's like the main thing we're criticizing men for is being Andrew Tates and Dan Bilzerians. Stop smoking weed.
Yeah,
Stop watching porn. Porn is
definitely.
so gay, right? It's
It's so
so
gay.
gay.
It's Nick Fuentes level gay, okay?
Yes, and you're literally it's so cuckish, right? Because at the heart of it, you're watching some other guy have sex with some other woman that you desire, and that's it's so sick.
Yeah.
And it needs to go away. It needs to go away. It's so bad. And like, so you have men doing all this stuff, they're distracted. If you actually had men pursuing women and being very serious about it, I don't think we'd have the problem that we have today. Because of because of nature, because of biology.
But why aren't they
Abs-
pursuing women? Because I'm tired, like, we're having these incel problems. We have so many men online, like, hate women, like, even on dating apps, I've seen the most horrific things where from conservative men, not even liberal guys, where it's like, conservative, like, "Do I wanna have kids? Yes. Do I do the but don't swipe on me if you" and they have this crazy list, and I'm like, "Ha sir, have we seen
This
a
is
mirror,
the onesies.
sir? Have we seen a mirror, sir? No. Like, let's
Well,
let's tone that back."
I think that men, I think that men get easily distracted, right? And I think that young men have very high levels of testosterone, and our society and our culture has been telling them it's okay to watch porn. It's okay to sleep
I
around.
think our generation had high testosterone. This generation, a 20-year-old guy's testosterone is the same
Well,
as a 60-year-old guy's was in the year 2000.
no, that's true, but that's all compounding, right?
Mhm.
I do think that there's so many problems, it's hard to point it at one thing. I think that, no fault divorce started taking off in the 60s, right? So
Victim, victim.
my dad was a victim, right? And I would go as far to say that my grandparents were victim. Like what happened was it became a cultural thing. It became a fad. You go to the hairdresser and oh well one woman's talking about how she's getting divorced, and then the other women that are in the chairs are listening.
Yeah,
Oh well, yeah, no, my husband doesn't treat me right either. Like, and it all becomes about me instead of how do I make this marriage better? How can I, dig in? Divorce for me is not an option,
yeah,
right? Like anything could happen in our marriage, and I'd still try to figure it out.
yeah.
And we don't have that mindset. And then you have my dad's generation. They were the first like kids that were swept up into the no fault divorce generation. And
Mm,
then you have the kids of his generation. I could have been swept up in the no fault divorce,
yeah.
right? If my dad didn't get
Well,
clean.
that's why I mean, as much as I want a family, I was so thankful that I didn't have kids because the last thing I would ever want is for my children to be victims of a no-fault divorce. Like, that it was just it's hard enough on me, let alone and, like, on the women I know that were victims of it. So I can't imagine what it's like on kids.
But you think about like, okay, without porn, like let's just play this out. Men have needs, right? And you're
You don't
not gonna
say, but
you're not gonna you're not gonna as a man, as a married man, you're not gonna sleep on the couch for months at a time, weeks at a time if
unless you're gay. Unless you're gay.
unless you're gay or you can watch porn,
Yeah.
right? But like if your wife's saying you're not cleaning, you're not doing enough around the house, well, and you don't have access to porn, well, guess what? You're gonna start
You're
cleaning the
gonna
house more.
start
You're gonna
cleaning
start
you're
doing all
gonna
this
do
stuff.
the dishes. You're gonna do a
There
little
was
housework.
there was a natural system for all of this for men and women to stay happy together. And then we brought in porn, we brought in OnlyFans, we brought in weed, we brought in sports betting. We got all these distractions with young men that it's not good to sleep on the couch.
Yeah.
Drop the porn. Go direct all of your energy towards your wife, all of it, and you're going to have a much happier life. this whole stuff, it just leads to divorce, and then you don't care if you're sleeping in the same bed as your wife. It's totally terrible, and I
Yeah.
have friends that are going through this, and I hear their stories, and my heart literally breaks for them, and because it's men, it's women, and it's all, like, things a lot of it's outside of their control. The society culture is so it's the water if you're a fish, the culture is the water that you
Yeah,
swim.
and you are like the 6 closest people, in your circle. So if you're I mean, you're literally right, like, we're like the fish, and culture's the water.
Yeah, and our culture's toxic. It's got bad stuff in it. You think the
We
estrogen in
need
the
Bobby
DC water's
Kennedy, we
bad,
need RFK to come in and maha it up in this water. That's what I'm feeling.
or MAFA, make
Mama
American families
oh!
great again. Oh, no, no, I don't even know what
Oh.
it is.
No, I love that Make American Families yeah.
Make families
Maybe
MFers.
make
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 families
American families again?
everything right again.
Yeah,
So
there's an inundation of that we're gonna go with. You know, what is it? It's like, I'm trying to remember this statistic. It's like American adults ages 18 to 55, it's finally flipped in the last year where it's the first time recorded where there are more single adults without children and are unmarried, than married adults with children. So knowing that that is the culture, that I mean, we know that men over 35, 36, by the time they have a much lower, like that's when their chances of committing to a relationship lowers, and then it really goes down at 43. So, because I know, and this is like kind of a caveat, but I also want to ask you, I know so many Christian women, conservative women, women that would love to have families and be married and who are smart. I'm talking like partner in a law firm, runs a hedge fund, real estate girl, like wonderful women who work because they have to because we have to pay bills and a mortgage or whatever car payment, but they would love to get married and have children, and there's no men pursue, and they're beautiful and fun and smart. And I mean, I'm not friends with dumb ugly chicks. I'm kidding. I'm kidding. Kind of. Smart ugly chicks, but not dumb ugly chicks. No, but like, it's just I mean, it's true. Okay.
no, look,
But like
I
why? Why is this epidemic like even in the Christian conservative why are we all single when we want to get married? Where are the men?
I think men are distracted. I think men, I you want men to start pursuing women. I mean, get rid of porn. Make it harder for young men to get porn,
Well, that's my
because
that's my
it's a
question to you. What are the steps from like say you have a roadmap that you're making? Because I know you think about this a lot. Obviously, the American Principles Project deals with this a lot, deals with family a lot. Like you definitely are someone that has put deep and long and very, education, knowledge-based thought into all these questions. So what's the plan? Like if you could have a dream plan to try to fix our horribly toxic culture water, what's your plan? Like where do you start and where do you end?
well, I think you've got to address pornography. It's way too prevalent. It's to the point where like random every town girls are doing porn on OnlyFans. I think
Yeah,
think we've gone too far there. So
yeah.
we've got to start reining that in. I think sites like OnlyFans should absolutely be illegal. I don't see the difference between
Completely
that
agree.
and
Oh,
prostitution,
do you know the average
right?
girl only makes like unless you're one of those I don't know any of their names obviously because I don't watch that. But
No, they don't make hardly any money at
they
all.
make
And
$93. The average is $93 a month. And
yep.
they're prostituting themselves
And
and
those
selling
videos are
themselves.
and those videos and images are there forever.
I mean, and then you see the girls on Feet Finder. I was posting I don't follow anybody on my TikTok. I just post stuff for the show and for life and just really for the show. So it's not like I have anything in my algorithm. I don't know how to search on TikTok. Don't tell anybody. I feel really old. I like literally don't I know how to post and that is it. That's all I know how to do. And so it's not like the algorithm has anything for me in terms of like the search history. And I'm sitting there trying to post, when you open it up, there's automatically like a stupid one reel playing that you'd have to go to your profile for. It was this Asian girl putting peanut butter on her feet. And I was like, what is this? And like you can make so much cash. Like and then so me doing how it started and then it showed how it's going. She has like this Hermes bag and a Chanel bag and like just stuff. And it's all just stuff. And we somehow prioritized it and we made it these idols that we have like worshiped and bowed to, whether it's money or the car, the private jet. I mean, you think about like what Stevie Nicks, I said this when I was talking to AJ Hurley of the White Rose Resistance, so obviously working on pro life stuff, but he was just like, between Stevie Nicks saying that her abortion saved her career and there would be no Fleetwood Mac without her abortion, or Michelle Williams dedicating her Oscar to the children she's aborted. And it's literally, we were talking about the irony. It's literally a golden statue.
Yes.
She's dedicating her murdered children to a tiny little golden statue of a man. And I'm going, what? So, but yeah,
Well,
to your point, it's crazy.
let's be clear. I would prefer a world in which Stevie Nicks had living children than any song by Fleetwood Mac. I'll
Yes.
just say, and don't even mean that as a knock against Fleetwood Mac. I think the world will be better with more human beings than more uh, music that's going to be forgotten about in a century, right? That no one's going to be playing Stevie Nicks. I mean, think about like what musicians do you remember from the 1850s, right? Like you're not going to remember Stevie Nicks in 2070. I'm just telling you. So it's just crazy to me, and it's so egotistical and narcissistic to think, well, I gave you my music and I killed my children over it.
My art is
Uh,
my gift to humanity. But so like, but coming from the fact that these girls were told, do your acting, do OnlyFans, sell yourself, sell your body. And with the porn, so like, how do we even tackle porn? Like, obviously, there's this legislation going on with 26 states that you're working on. I know they had
yeah,
that control group they tried doing of 12-year-old boys to compare and contrast their neuroplasticity of those who had been exposed to hardcore pornography and those who hadn't, and they couldn't find enough boys for a control group to compare them against. So this is obviously a huge problem. But then where do we go from there?
well, so I think okay, so one, I think age verification is critical. I think if you can keep most young boys off of porn, by the time I think if you can get young boys to have their first sexual experience with a girl
Mm,
instead of a computer screen,
yeah.
I think that most of them are going to look at pornography as weird.
Yeah.
And in fact, previous generations that didn't have porn, they all look at porn as super weird. They're
Really?
like, "Wait, you're gonna watch other I don't understand, over the internet, on a
When you could have
computer
a live
screen?"
human lady? What?
You could have a relationship with someone, like, you could actually get to know someone.
Yeah.
It's crazy. And so I think if you can protect the kids and get them off of porn and get them to actually meet a girl and fall in love, I think they're gonna look at porn, uh, the right proper way, which is that
Right.
it's a perversion, it's gross. But also, Tiff, I think you gotta fix the economy. I think you gotta change the tax code. There's all these marriage penalties. There's been calculations that it's up to $30,000 a
That's
year in additional
crazy.
taxes. That's kinda crazy.
Yeah.
Probably shouldn't be doing that. In Lyman Stone, he says, there should be no I do penalty. You should be no better off, or I'm sorry, no worse off after getting married than you were before you got married. You should actually be better off
Well, look what Hungary
when
and
you get
Poland are doing. I mean, they're fixing their population problem by giving these tax credits and basically wiping out debt if you have like 4 kids, like you're taken care of. And why aren't we doing that?
we need to do a lot more stuff. And I think you start with eliminating the marriage penalties. I think, I hated this idea. I'm not even going to bring up who brought it up, but we've seen talk about a 50-year mortgage as a way to help people afford homes. That's
Ugh.
crazy. It's idiotic to me, frankly. I think what we should do instead is push people to pay off their homes quicker, right?
Mm.
You'd be better off without a mortgage every month. So
Oh,
give
and have
people
an
a tax
asset.
break
How own
and have an
something.
asset. Exactly. So let's give people a home savings account where they can get a 100% tax deduction for putting money towards the down payment on a home or towards additional principal payments. Let's incentivize people to own their homes outright instead of the banks to own the homes, right? Your nation's going to be a lot stronger when everyone owns a piece of the pie. They actually own it outright than if it's all centralized into our banking system. It's
Yes.
totally weak and it's totally crazy.
And they're gonna
Eliminate
be
the
a lot
marriage
more
penalties.
invested in who they're electing to office as well because they actually have skin in the game, and with no skin in the game, same thing as fatherhood, you don't really care.
That's so true. It's not even funny. But it goes for kids too, right? Like if you have kids, you vote differently.
Yeah,
Because you're not voting for more illegal immigrants to come here because you want your kids to go to a safe school. You want them to go to the park or go running in the middle of the night when they're at college and not be brutally raped and murdered
yeah.
by illegal immigrants. The family structures and how they impact society is very boring. It's even more boring when it comes to political behavior. Married families with children vote for Republicans. They vote for conservatives. They are ideologically conservatives. The never married, the cohabitating, they vote more Democratic than the divorced, right?
What is that?
It's because they don't have any responsibility. Especially with young women, they want children. They have a biological desire to nurture and take care of people. And so instead of having their own child that they're focused on, they focus on the illegal immigrant that's been embezzling $18 billion from the United States taxpayer.
It's
They
misplaced
focus,
compassion. It's like this
it's
misplaced maternal compassion and need to nurture, and it's like I mean, I think it's the s y like, you're right, it's the same reason why they all have those stupid little French bulldogs that I don't like those dogs. Do you know French bulldogs cannot naturally procreate? Do you know they're all IVF babies?
oh, that makes so much.
Their
I'm more of a
hips are too
Pomeranian
small.
fan myself.
My family has a bunch of small dogs, one of them's a Pomeranian mix. It's just like I know I'm gonna offend a lot of people on here that love their stupid Frenchies, but they shouldn't exist for a reason, okay? They're ugly, they have all these health problems, their hips are too narrow, they can't even mount the female to thrust. Like, that's not naturally occurring, okay? That's not okay. Like, there should be rules, all right? So I'm just saying that now they've made these modically, you know, created non-real dogs. Like I want an Irish wolfhound, right? Give me a real dog. Give me a black lab. Like give me something that like has some meat on it and can create a litter on its own, please.
I just want to point out this is the first time I've ever talked with anyone, let alone in an interview, about the mating abilities of French bulldogs. It's
You're
incredible. I'm
welcome,
really happy.
America.
I love this. This is perfect.
I mean, it's TMB. What do you expect, Harry? Like, come on. Like, you know me. Like, what are we like? Come on. But no, and they make these and they dress them up in like outfits and like I was watching on Instagram. I got sucked into cat cat videos. I don't even have a cat, but I got sucked in there for some reason. I liked one. You know what happened? That video from like 2023, 2021 resurfaced where that lawyer got stuck with that cat filter on his face during the meeting with the judge. "You know, judge, I'm not a cat." And I can't watch that video without like the weird crazy laugh where I can't breathe. So somehow then my algorithm and I probably watched like 3 times. I was peeing my pants laughing. And as I don't sleep, this is what I do at 3 in the morning. And so that somehow made my algorithm full of cat videos, but there's all these cat videos of these women by themselves dressing up their cats, the dressing up with their cats. Me, I'm just like, Dude, get married and have a child. This is sad. This is sad." And it bothers me because you're right. It just speaks to a whole host of other problems. But yes, French bulldogs are fake. Don't buy one.
Well, I no, yeah, they're fake. But look, I will say I blame men, right? Like I think that if men were marriageable, I think we'd have a lot more
But why aren't they
marriages.
marriageable? Like, and why are they so angry when we as women? 'Cause, you mentioned before, women. The number one thing we look for, and this is statistical, because I didn't think about it until I was like, oh yeah, that is true. We look for security. Like at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter how hot you are, how like who, like what you job you have or whatever. We're looking for someone that we can feel safe with. And it's not just about money. That's like who I can feel like is going to protect me, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, physically. Like that's what we look for. They don't have to
Yeah.
be the tallest guy, the strongest guy, but to know someone will be willing to fight for you, in any capacity. So where are the guys and why are they unwilling to step up?
Well, I think the overall message in society is like delay marriage, right?
Mm,
And so I think that men don't really start even considering or looking towards marriage until they're in their 30s or late 20s, really. But again, I keep going back to this. Young men have a lot of testosterone, and that testosterone is absolutely destructive.
yeah.
Absolutely destructive. George Gilder in his book Men and Marriage, he points out that like single men are a scourge on humanity. They commit the vast majority of like violent crimes. They steal the most money. They do the most drugs. Like you really don't want a lot of single men
I didn't
in society.
realize that, but that's totally right.
And all the science shows that once you get married, you start to I forget the name. Oh my gosh, I shouldn't even bring this up if I don't know the name. I think it's I'm gonna miss it, but there's a hormone that gets introduced to the male when he gets married, and then
Is it
there's it's
called a fully developed
progesterone.
prefrontal cortex? Because that's probably
Well, that helps, but then when you have kids, I think it's progesterone, it's a bonding
Oh,
hormone.
you're
It
totally
comes
right.
in,
It's
and
vasopressin.
yes,
Vasopressin. Yeah. See, I'm
And
a nerd. I know all these random things. No, it's vasopressin, and do you know it's significantly higher? Testosterone, serotonin, and vasopressin levels are significantly higher in men who play with their children.
yes. And so it's actually the primary system. You
Mm.
stop wanting to burn down things, you stop wanting to go and act like a jackass. You know, it's like the Pleasure Island, right? In
Oh,
Pinocchio, right? You
yeah.
have I think men
That
are
gives me
suffering from
nightmares, man. That
oh,
mm-mm.
it should because Pleasure Island, Peter Pan syndrome, it's all the same thing, and that's really what's plaguing young men is like, who are their role models? Well, it's like professional athletes, it's Andrew Tate, it's Dan Bilzerian. They're looking for the wrong people for guidance,
Who can they
and
look up to, though? Because I feel like and again, it's coming in as a woman in her 30s that is dating, and it's scary. It's so much scarier than anyone will tell you, than any of the memes. It's so much worse. Thankfully, I met a nice guy. We'll see what happens. It feels like so many guys have just given up. It feels like a generation of guys that have just given up. And
mhm.
and there's this apathy, you know? And so
Well, if
how do
you
you fix that?
Well, and I just want to reemphasize this is you're right. Men are giving up, and that's why like the deaths of despair for young white men is so high. It's never been higher. Deaths of despair are suicides and drug overdoses, right? And men are withdrawing. And look, there was a recent report that came out towards the end of last year that showed how DEI programs were actually weaponized against young, straight white men to keep them out of the success pipeline, out of the entry level jobs. So these kids, these young white men going to college, paying tons of money in tuition, racking up huge amounts of student loan debt. And then when they go to apply for the jobs that are open for them, they can't get it because they're not, well, I'm not going to say the
Because
things, but they're not a minority. They're white and they're straight and
I'll
they're
say the things. They're not a black, queer,
well, it's like, yeah,
LGBT,
they're not
trans,
LGBT, they're
like,
not like any of these
non-binary
preferred
fairy.
minorities.
Yeah, I actually had a massage once. I've never complained about, any kind of treatment in my life. I had to complain because I scheduled a massage with a woman, and I walk in, and it is a man with long nails and long hair who didn't identify as a transgender woman. No, no. He identified as a forest fairy spirit. And I was like, oh, how do I extricate myself from this situation? So, yeah, it's
I
really bad. You have no
I'm
idea, dude.
uncomfortable. I'm
You have
uncomfortable just
no
hearing
idea.
about it.
I was uncomfortable, and I was naked under a towel, so that was so much worse. It's so much worse. And there was no getting out. And the room smelled like burritos for some reason. I had PTSD from that situation. Anyway, but, now everyone listening, can you imagine us on a night out when there's actually, like, margarita involved, alright? This is a fun crew we got going in DC, just FYI.
That's true,
We're
that's true.
mixing hang with us. We're the fun conservatives. But okay, so we're gonna eliminate porn. That's goal number one. We're going to, try to get men to care and to because it doesn't matter if they're the smartest. I mean, you think about these guys, these kids that worked their whole lives that were the best at math or English or engineering or whatever. It doesn't matter. They're still getting doxxed. They're still getting knocked down. So it's like generationally, don't they're just gonna give up. And then how do we re-encourage them?
Well, some will give up, but how this always works throughout history on a long enough time frame is there's a generation that eventually comes around and they're super tough, and there's
Mm,
nothing that can keep them down. You have these cycles that have been throughout our history. I think that in order to keep from despairing, I think we need to realize, okay, what can I do right now in the moment? Well, what Terry Schilling can do is I can produce documentaries, go around the country and talk to everyone I can about this and give them advice. But even on a more easy level, I can have more kids. I can talk to my kids about the importance of having a large family, about not even having a large family, but just not playing God, right? Letting God plan out how many kids you and your wife have. Like either the Christian thesis and belief that we're all made in the image and likeness and from the will of God, the creator, either that's true or it's not. And if it's true, then it's a real sin to like say no to God when it comes to having a baby.
Yes.
If you're not Christian, I don't care. Don't have any more babies. If you're not a Christian, I don't care if you have babies. But like, if you are a
But give them
Christian,
to a Christian who does want one, like, the
yeah, we'll raise them right. We'll raise them to appreciate human beings, their fellow man. But like, if you're a Christian, in what friggin' world do you have any right telling no to God
yeah.
if He wants to send a either that baby that my wife is pregnant with, number 8, was
Which she looks
willed.
so good. Can you just tell her that she's, like, my hero?
Well,
Like, I wanna know, like, whatever she does, she looks amazing, like, amazing.
there's a reason why we have our 8th kid on the way. You know, it's
Oh,
it's easy
that's
to
fair. I mean,
understand.
she's hot, dude. You married up, man. Like, you married up. I've seen pictures of you before the beard. Like, I don't know what she was thinking, but God bless her. God
Thank
bless
you.
her.
I
Your
know
cute little baby face.
I shaved a few years ago, and my kids told me to shave it back. They did not like my
I mean,
bare
as your
face.
friend, I will agree with that. Like,
But
I
I
think all
just
men look better with facial hair. Come on.
I think that's probably true. Well, ugly men look better with facial hair, but
No, all men. Trust me, all
look,
men.
it goes back to this simple truth. I firmly believe that if you're pregnant or anything, that baby was willed into existence by God. You look at the science of conception,
Did
it's
you see the
actually
video that
super
came out
tough.
this week? It just came out
I've
this week. The
I haven't
blue
seen this one.
swirly things?
No,
The
what's
pink
this?
so we before we have that one, microscopic video showing the electric pulse that comes off
Yeah.
the egg. This is new. They've actually been able to see what happens on a even smaller microscopic level before that, and it's just shimmer, and then all of a sudden, it's these, like and the contrast makes it look pink and, like, dark purple.
Hmm.
It's this gorgeous design, symmetrical design of swirls that ripples across the egg, and then you see and it's like, even that is beautifully intelligent design that is so clear. I mean, the chances of DNA evolving are 1 over 10 to the 180th power, which is a mathematical impossibility, right? I'm a nerd. So, it's just, like, to see that in close up, I mean, how can you look at that and not say, "This is life"? It's not just an egg, it's not just a clump of cells, it's not just I mean, you think about how many are in the freezer with these IVF business.
Well, speaking of IVF, a lot of people don't know this because they don't know the science of reproduction. But the woman, okay, women are filters, right? They're supposed to be selective in who they procreate with and who they mate with. The egg is selective,
Yes!
right?
No
The
one
egg
talks about this. It
actually,
drives me crazy.
if the egg picks up on a sperm cell that is not healthy or it's not compatible with it, it will tell it to go away and it won't let it in. If it only lets a sperm in if it's compatible with the egg. And so when you know this type of stuff, it's like, oh, IVF's really no wonder the IVF embryos all have serious problems because you're not allowing that selection to happen at the
It's
most you're
yes!
injecting the sperm into the egg.
Oh, Terry, do you know how much I love you for saying this? Because I recently was talking about this, actually on on a date where it was I was talking about why I'm against IVF, you know, because you talk about these things when you date in your 30s, and I said, "First of all, this guy and oh, it's gonna be so embarrassing. We met on a dating app by accident because I forgot to cancel my subscription when I did my podcast episode about why dating apps are the worst. So to go in and I had to reactivate my profile that I paid 2 things. I realized I've been paying like $110 for like 15 months a month, and I was so mad at myself. So I had to go and reactivate the profile to cancel the subscription. I was staying at my friend Sarah's house, my best friend, and we're like, well, I have paid for 2 weeks, I might as well just like and so it was a total accident, but on the podcast episode, so it was a big dose of irony. When you meet someone algorithmic, and I know a lot of people have met and married, but I truly believe that, and again, there are exceptions. Like this guy and I hit it off right away, so there's obviously something there on a but it's a pheromone thing, right? You know, like God made everyone have different pheromones because your body, without you even being aware of it, is siphoning out who is going to be most compatible for reproduction. So when you're attracted to someone across the room, when you see someone and you're physically automatically like, who is that person? Or that person is beautiful. It's because not everyone's attracted to the same thing. It's your body saying, that looks like good sperm to me. Like, come over here, man. Like, I can tell I know what your pack
The
is.
things I have heard on this podcast, the things I've said on this podcast, the things that this is great. This is the best podcast I
You
think
gotta
I've
come on
done in a
again.
long
So
time.
I know you have to go, but I just want to say, like, you're right because then it is and now we have video of it on microscopic level of the egg choosing, because even a woman will reject the egg will reject all the sperm from ejaculation if there's nothing good that she wants, like the egg wants. And so she chooses, because there could be multiple sperm trying to get in, and she'll choose which one to let like the door open to. And
Mhm.
so when we are artificially forcing egg and sperm together unnaturally, we are creating genetically, probably not as healthy. I mean, we know like the statistics where a lot of them have more autism, a lot of them have more birth defects or all kinds of problems, and or they don't last past like the first trimester. We have so many miscarriages, or even like when they do the implantation, they don't take. And it's because we're forcing it instead of realizing that God has a plan. Like God is
And
in charge.
just let him, you know, I will tell you this, and when they tried to mainstream birth control in the United States, like in like I think 1920s, 1930s, and it didn't take off because Americans like looked at it as playing God. America was such a Christian nation that they were
Yeah.
like, no, 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 no. God's in charge of when we die and who lives, and this is playing God. And it didn't really get mainstream until a few Christian churches had adopted it in the United States. But it's just you either believe as a Christian that each of us is willed into being by God, or you don't.
Yeah.
And if you don't, then you're not a Christian.
Yeah.
Sorry, but like you have to at least get. The problem is like the left has done a great job of corrupting humanity at conception. Right. I
Yeah.
mean, I say that very deliberately. Like, if you can corrupt
Yeah.
sex and really you're corrupting humanity at its conception, at its very beginning. Of course you're going to have a boatload of problems that spiral out from there because you're corrupting it at the very beginning. And it's Christians, right? It's like, who do I blame for the downfall of America and why we're here? I blame Christians, I blame men, right? Like, and I think that if
We're so
Christians just
weak.
did their
We just
duty.
open the door to the wolves. We're like, "Hey, come on inside. We have these nice tasty lambs, like, they're delicious and so fluffy." And you're like,
It's
"What
easy.
are you doing?"
It's like there was a spell cast on us, and we're finally starting to wake up out of that spell. But I do think we're turning it around. I'm seeing more and more young people. Like, just do the math, okay? We're having our eighth kid. If each one of my kids, and I'm talking to them about letting God play in their family size, if each one of them goes on to have
Netflix,
five,
Joey
eight,
Gentlemen.
10, that's
They're
right.
great for something. I'm kidding, I'm kidding.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. I like that. If my kids each have 10 kids, right? That's 80. And if those kids go on to have 10 kids, that's 800 shilling great grandchildren.
That's
So,
awesome. Think about the
but
family reunions.
that's why the left doesn't want it. Because they don't want the Schilling family to have any real power or influence in this country. They want big government or Jeff Bezos or
Yeah,
Bill Gates. Like, they want their people to have it. When
yeah.
we have families that are strong and intact, they have less power and it drives them nuts. So they hand out birth control like it's candy and they pay for it with
They
our tax
literally
dollars.
lit and made it look like candy, and, you're right, and what the thing I just read was that conservative Christians are the least susceptible, Christians specifically, are the least susceptible to propaganda. It was, like, from the CIA, the old CIA handbook. If it's an actually devout Christian, much harder than any other demographic to infiltrate, to twist, and to, sell propaganda to, because if your foundation is based on the Bible and on Jesus and on God and living a godly life, like that's your root, that's your foundation. And it doesn't matter how much CIA inception espionage they tried pushing, they couldn't get that demographic to budge. But and I know you have to go. You and I just so I, would you like to tell people like where can they find the film? What's how can they support? How can they support APP? Tell them a little bit of what APP does, and just anything you want to close with in terms of like fatherhood.
Well, first of all, on fatherhood, everyone should try it. You need to get married, have babies as soon as possible. You're not going to regret it. It's going to be better than any blunt you hit, any OnlyFans video you watch, any international vacation, any golf course. Those are all, fun things maybe, but having kids is joyful. It's rewarding. It's the coolest thing. I've lived the life, right? Like, I've lived all that stuff. I've golfed in some really awesome places, but nothing's like having a family, having kids that you get to hang out with.
Yeah. And
So
you're gonna
that's
die
first and
alone if
foremost.
you don't. So like
That's right. You're
think
gonna die
ahead.
alone if you don't.
Think ahead, guys. Who's gonna take care?
But
And I love who's gonna take care of these people. Some my friends like, I'll hire a Filipino, and I'm like,
But
what?
no, no, but who? Who are you gonna hire? Like,
Who?
because if everyone lives that lifestyle, then there will be no one to take care. You won't be able to afford it because the
Yeah.
population will be doing everything else. And really, really, should we be dedicating an entire sector of our economy to taking care of old people, or should that be done by the families? I know who I want taking care of me in my final days and final
Who's actually
years. I
gonna
want
care?
my
I mean,
family.
there's a
Right.
reason why so many people, as soon as they're moved into nursing homes, the death rate after, like, 3 months, it skyrockets. Because
Yes.
no one cares, no one's checking on them, they're just like a human being in a bed, they're like a number. No one
And the
cares about the
abuse.
family. The
I've seen
abuse
so
is
many videos of
horrible.
the abuse that comes out of these It's terrible. It's
It makes
horrific.
me sick.
But look, we're gonna win. We're gonna pull this off. We don't have a launch date yet. It's coming in February. It's gonna air first on the Tucker Carlson network,
Amazing.
and then we're gonna go from there. But we're doing the final. You know, you got to do all these legal edits and all this stuff to make sure you're in compliance once it goes public. But we just did the premiere, but it should be coming in February. So stay tuned. Follow me on Instagram, on X, on all the major social media platforms at Schilling 1776, or go to AmericanPrinciplesProject.org, and you can sign up for more information on it. But it's going to be great. I can't wait to share it with the
It
rest
is
of the world.
great. I saw it. And tell them a little bit about what APP does and how they can support you.
Easiest way, I mean, everything that Tiff and I have been talking about is what APP does. We want to get people married and having kids again. We're the NRA, but for families. So we do family policy. You know, there's big pharma, big oil, big tobacco. APP is big family.
Literally and
Trans are
figuratively.
If you trans our kids, we're coming for you. If you put boys in our daughters' sports or showers or locker rooms, we're coming for you, right? We want politicians to pay a price when they hurt our kids or hurt our families. And, you know, obviously the next step is we got to get people married and having kids again because there's no point in having an NRA for families if there aren't families.
Amen. Amen. Well, thank you so much for joining us, Terry, and thank you for being
Anytime.
my most fun guest. You make me laugh. I'm so glad we're friends. I'm so glad. No, that, but that's a gift from God.
I got
Your
to get you on my
friendship,
show.
anytime.
The
You know
Terry
I'm
Schilling
down.
Show, by the way, hosted by Terry Schilling. You should come on. I'll get you on next time.
Wow. Do you know a guy that could get me on? Maybe you could call someone and could give me a
I'll
good
talk to him.
word. Okay,
I'll
thanks.
talk to him.
But everyone, follow Terry's podcast, follow APP, and support them, especially when it comes to policy initiatives. They're doing the Lord's work, literally. And thank you all so much for joining this episode of the Tiffany Marie Brannon Show. We hope to see you again very soon. Thanks. Bye bye.